Hi, it's Pastor Katie here from First United Church of Christ in Richmond, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody, and may you be sharing love all over the place. Be that blessing that you expect to have blessed on you. Be the blessing to others. And today, in all the churches that celebrate the common lectionary, we are into the Feast of Transfiguration. Now, that feast, for whatever reason, in other Christian churches is celebrated at different times, and even twice a year in some churches. Matters not. Feast of Transfiguration. What's it all about? You just heard it read. You know who's there. It's that inner circle of Jesus' friends, Peter, James, and John. They always get to be where no one else gets to be. So let me tell you a story. A father comes home from work. He's been at the office all day, and he's greeted by the 3-year-old son who's just full of energy, and he can't wait to tell his daddy everything that happened all day, and the boy's been waiting for him, would seem like endless hours, and he just wants to be with his daddy. And now the child has learned to talk. He's 3 years old. You know what that's like with a 3-year-old? The toddler is da-da-da-da-da-da, they can't wait. And he is just wanting to give every detail to his dad of the day and everything he learned that day. His mom teaches him songs, and that's before his nap time. And outside he played, and he skinned his knee, and then he fell off the porch. And the whole thing is something that he wants to share with his daddy. And he watched all afternoon a cartoon, and even that he wants to share. And then Grandma called. He got a chance to talk to Grandma on the phone. And he wants to be the person who tells Daddy all about all that happened. And as Daddy is standing there listening to the child in his going on in unbroken sequence, the gift of connection from the innocent and loving heart of a son with his father, something kind of happened. It's not that the father interrupted in any way as the son was talking, and he certainly didn't walk out of the room mid-sentence, but somehow the child realized instinctively that the father's mind had wandered away from their little huddle, perhaps back to the pressing business at the office or ahead to the odd jobs that was needed to be done around the house. And even though the dad had never left the room physically, the son noticed. So the child just took matters into his own hands, literally. He put his hands on the cheeks of his daddy, and he just said, looking into his eyes, "You're not listening to me. Listen to me." As he squeezed his father's cheeks, he said the words and he pronounced the words, and you know, the boy is right. Just because someone is not talking while you're talking to them does not mean they are actually listening to you. They may just be thinking about what they're going to say next, or they may be nodding their head, uttering an occasional, I see what you mean, even though their minds have left their body and floated somewhere off in Netherland. And some of you right now are elbowing somebody because you know they're not paying attention either. And as you elbow them, they have a confused look like, what are you doing? They probably don't know why you're doing that. And I know that happens in church, it happens everywhere, it happens at conferences. But listening, real listening, it happens so rarely today. And when it does, when someone really listens to you, you realize what a special gift they are giving you. And is this frustrated longing for someone to listen deeply to us the reason we feel more understood by the bartender or your favorite beautician instead of to the people who are closest to us in the family? Is the need to be heard the reason we seek out professional listeners? It might be a clergy person, it might be a social worker, it might be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Maybe we do not seek nor need their advice so much as we need their attentive ear. We just want someone to listen to us without judgment, without interruption, without boredom. Listening is really the gift of caring, a selfless act of interest in another's life. Isn't this one of God's great gifts to each of us? Like the loving Father he is, God always has time and interest to hear us, to attend to our every thought and deed, to listen to our prayers, our sobs and cries, as well as our many good times and euphoria moments. Our world could use a few more people willing to listen like that, don't you think? Lord knows we have more than enough talkers, word processor, noisemakers, and chatterboxes. But who will step up and be the designated listener for us? Is someone in your life, in your church, hurting, grieving, angry, or lonely? Do not be anxious around them because you do not know what to say. Seldom is it important for you to say anything, nor could the right words be said. No, most of the time, all a hurting person wants is for someone to take the time to hear them, to be with them in silence, or if they initiate it, conversation. Just listen. There is no greater gift you can give in the face of suffering. Listening is better than flowers, it's better than a casserole, it's better than good advice, and advice, don't give it unless you're asked. And it is the gift every one of us could give if we would only tone down the drowning noise and busyness filling our own heads, and instead create enough silence and peace to provide a welcoming and safe space to receive the words of another human heart. Sometimes that is all we want, all we need, just for someone to listen, not to solve any problems, just to listen, to be totally present with us. In fact, even Jesus needed that gift occasionally. And our gospel lesson today is one such example. Jesus had just revealed to his disciples for the first time that this path of his was obedience to God and was leading to a purpose of suffering and death on a cross. It was not the destiny desired by the disciples, of course. So rather than listen to this difficult message, they tried to argue with Jesus, change his mind. But counter-arguments were not the responses Jesus needed. Not at that point. Already he could feel the agonizing weight of the cross he would bear. He could not carry the additional drag of his disciples' resistance too. Jesus needed someone to listen to him, not argue with him. So he took that mini retreat and headed up the mountain to pray, seeking the comfort of just a listening ear. There he communed with Moses and Elijah, the embodiment of the law and the prophets, heroes of Israel's past, who were themselves acquainted with the path of obedience that may lead to suffering. And on that mountaintop, God himself listened to his beloved Son. And in that listening, Jesus found comfort and strength to come back down from the mountain to fulfill his difficult mission. Perhaps this is the lesson for us. Even if no one else seems to be listening to our deepest heart's cry, turn to the scriptures, find companionship in the heroes of faith and the suffering of those who preceded you. Retreat to a quiet place before God and pour out your heart. That's what we do in the season of Lent. And it's a good time to practice such an intentional retreat to God's heart. Go ahead. God is listening. But frankly, God did not intend to let his disciples, nor any of us, any of the rest of us, to be off the hook when it comes to cultivating the list and the gift of listening. It is not just God's job to listen. Each of us are supposed to learn that grace too. When the disciples started fumbling for words and gestures in the face of the awesome, shining moment before them, God thundered this one simple command. "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." You can almost sense God placing his divine hands on each side of our face, looking us straight in the eyes. Say, the eyes lead us to the soul, seeking our undivided attention. Sometimes it is the gift God most wants to receive and we most need to give. Listen. Just listen. Are you listening? And the people said, Amen.